Welcome everyone. Bienvenue tout le monde to a graduate workshop on websites and CVs. So our plan for today will start with a presentation by Nicolas Bédard, who works here at the university as a senior advisor, if I'm not mistaken. And he will tell us about professional CVs and how you can highlight in your CV your academic skills when you are looking for jobs outside of the academic world. And so after that, we will have Jennifer, who will tell us about personal websites, and then we'll have a presentation by Meredith Rocky, who will be joining us a little later about academic CVs. And of course, we're here today also mainly to answer your questions, so please don't hesitate throughout the presentation to put them in the chat in French or in English. We'll make sure to, well, as much as possible, to take the time and answer all of your questions. Donc, on est là, bien sûr, aujourd'hui aussi pour répondre à vos questions, fait que tout au long de la présentation, n'hésitez pas à mettre vos questions dans le chat. On prendra le temps d'y revenir. Alors, voilà, donc je vais passer la parole maintenant à Nicolas Bédard, donc, qui travaille ici à l'université comme conseiller, qui va nous parler des CV professionnels. Donc, Nicolas, la parole est à vous.
Merci. Je vais juste partager mon écran. I think you can see my screen now. Yeah, perfect. So welcome today. Thank you. So we're just going to talk about transferable skills in building a resume. So first of all, transferable skills are skills that you possessed that are useful for employers across various jobs and industries. Ou en français, ce serait des compétences transférables. Donc, c'est des compétences que vous avez acquis avec des expériences passées qui sont applicables avec divers emplois. Transferable skills can be skills like adaptability, teamwork, leadership, communication skills. There's a variety of lists. I'll send a document to Jennifer afterwards so she can share you a list with various types of transferable skills. But pretty much what transferable skills are skills that you've acquired previously that are able to be portable or transferred to another job. There are different ways to highlight your skills. First of all would be to identify your relevant skills for the position that you're seeking. And then it's going to be to consider how's the best way to demonstrate them and giving them ideally a leading role in your resume. Donc, il y a plusieurs manières de démontrer les compétences transférables. Tout d'abord, ça serait de les identifier. Par la suite, ça serait comment les présenter et aussi comment les mettre en valeur dans votre curriculum vitae. So first of all, to identify your transferable skills, it's important to read the job description and see what the company or the employers are looking for in the ideal candidate. And then you take the little keywords that they're saying in a job posting and you try and match to see what you have. So here we have an example of a job description. This one was for a communication coordinator. As you can see, everything that's highlighted here are all, here are all keywords or action verbs that's going to help you describe or identify what transferable skills the employers are looking for. So coordinate, so you know it's a leadership skills, assist in writing and building digital communications product, communicational skills, copying, editing, proofreading, communicational skills, collaboration, teamwork, working with others, teamwork, coordination with other teams, leaderships and teamworks, respond to members' inquiries, teamworking, research and analytical skills, more teamwork here, research, analytical skills, and teamworks. So by reading the job description, you can clearly identify what skills that they're looking for the ideal candidate. For example, in this one that we just went through, you can see that the company is more fixated on teamwork and leadership skills. So those would be the skills that you're going to try and highlight in your resume. So that is why it's important to read the job description, because different jobs are asking for different skills. So now after you read the job description, it's giving your transferable skills a leading role. Oops, sorry, it's how to demonstrate them. If you don't know where to start, the easiest way is try and mapping your previous experience. By experience, we don't necessarily mean work experience. It could be any kind of experience, volunteering, work, academic, school, pretty much just anything where you acquired experience. If you think about volunteering experience, yes, it's not work experience, but you acquired some skills during your volunteer hours that are applicable to various kinds of jobs. Same thing for academic areas. If you're a TA, you're presenting public speaking, research assistant, research analytical organization. So even in your academic settings, public speaking, presentation in class are all valuable skills that can be used for future purposes. So the goal would be then to try and tailor your resume to the skills that they're looking for. Show them, and the key trick is also showing them how you acquired those skills. It's easy to say, oh, I have strong X skills, but it's demonstrating how you showed them. It's kind of giving that, I like to say the little oomph, the little extra, kind of just describing how you got them. So now for giving your transferable skills a leading role, there's different ways to doing it. You can either do summary of qualifications, the proper action verbs, or even creating their own section. Donc, pour donner des compétences transférables ou les mettre en valeur, il s'agit d'abord, il y a plusieurs manières de le faire. Donc, c'est soit par l'utilisation des verbes d'action, la création d'une section de qualification, résumé des qualifications, ou même les mettre en valeur dans leur propre section. So for an example for the summary of qualification, first of all, summary of qualification would include the most important points you want to highlight to your employer, either your education, experience, skills, language. And this section, I'll show you later on where the section would be, but you're going to tailor them to the position that you're seeking. For example, you can see here, so whatever's highlighted in yellow would be the skills. So first one, tenacious project manager with 5 years experience using strong communication skills to complete successful end-to-end project with several teams. So you can see here, there's project management skills, communication skills, and teamwork skills. And what's underlined in this sentence or this bullet point would be how they acquired, how they honed that skills, so they're demonstrating with the 5 years of experience, they were able to be one project manager, develop communication skills and teamwork. The other example, so proven ability to work independently and as part of teams by working as a teacher's assistant. So you're showing your work habits and you're applying them with, you hone them through teaching assistant position. And the same one, excellent organizational time management skills and multitasking skills as demonstrated by organizing weekly workshops as a student mentor. So yeah, so it is important to say how you've honed or how you acquired them. It adds that little pizzazz, like I mentioned previously, just so the employers can really understand how you acquire them. It's easier said than to be done. And now for action verbs, it's critical to choose active, industry-appropriate action verbs. Well-chosen lead action words can make the difference between highlighting your skills and undermining your contribution. So for example, if you do communicational skills, like the word talk to other people doesn't prove that you've achieved your goals or that you actually got your point across. It just means that you talk to them. So it's important to use precise action verbs and using verbs with a little bit more personality than the usual suspect. And that will also help to stir the interest for the hiring team. More precise words can also add a touch of formality to your actions, where like address or corresponded can carry out more weight than a generic wrote or spoke. So instead of saying taught, led, presented, organized, you can say addressed, corresponded, persuaded, publicized, reconciled. This goes on for all the other kind of skills. Organizational skills, for example, instead of saying organize an offset meeting, say you orchestrated an offset meeting. Instead of saying leading the meeting, perhaps you chaired the meeting, like I said, persuaded is also another great verb to use. So instead of saying organized, ordered, filed, cataloged, executed, monitored, operated. And same thing for management skills. So just to show that the action verbs does have a meaning, especially for communication students, the employers are going to kind of suspect that your vocabulary would be a little bit higher up. So it's kind of important to be able to change and add various also action words, not always go talked, led, presented, talk, led, presented, because the more redundant these words are in your resume, it's kind of losing its value. And then different ways to highlight your skills would either, you can do a relevant experience or skill sections. Relevant experience or skills is past work experience that is relevant to the job that you're targeting. You know if it's relevant by reading the job description. It's also highly sought after employers and are often requirements found on the job posting, like I said, and it's important to highlight. So for this example here, you can see in this section right here that they have the relevant experience section and then the other experience. So this person would be applying, Luca Linguistics would be applying for a linguistic position. So he demonstrating all the relevant experience that is pertinent to the job that he's applying and all the other experience. It's important to also mention that other experience, it's also experience that could be beneficial for the employer. So it's still important to say what kind of experience that you also had. And there's always a way to kind of match experience with the job that you're applying for. Let's say I'm applying for, off the top of my head, somebody just give me a random job. Just anyone. I can't see the chat.
Oh, there is one in the chat. Accountant.
Accountant. Okay. Most people, let's go for accountant. And then most people probably worked in retail, cashier. And you're like, oh, how can I how can I link both of them? As a cashier, you're manipulating money, transactions, you're recording, like I said, transactions. So you can link a lot of different kinds of position to the position that you're seeking. It's just how to formulate or how to think that your task can correlate to the job that you're applying for. If you go back with accounting and retail, keeping stocks, merchandise can also lead to a proper way with accounting, inventory, money manipulations. And then for this one, there's another type of resume too, which would showcase your skills and abilities and then your work experience. These types of resumes are pretty much for people that probably doesn't have work experience in the related field, but they have the skills that they're looking for, which is sometimes it's like, oh, you want to do a change of careers. Let's say I studied in Telfer and then I went to do my master's in communication. I'm applying for a communication job, but I don't have a communications employment history. So I would highlight skills that I know would be beneficial for my job. So building your resume, there's four characteristics to keep in mind, which is formatting, education, experience, and writing. For formatting, pretty much it's using suitable and readable fonts such as Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman, roughly around 10 to 12 font size for the font. If it gets anything bigger, you're losing space to add more important information. And then anything under 10, it's really hard to read. The employers are seeing more than 100 resumes, cover letters a day. They don't want to start squinting and looking at the paper. So if they're having trouble reading it, they're just going to skip it. So that's why those are the fonts that are recommended. Ideally, also the length of the resume would be around 1 full page or 2 full pages. That being said, if you do go on a second page, make sure, like I said, it's full page. They don't like to see white space. And also try and keep the resume short, sweet, simple. nothing too extravaganza. Pretty much, it's a corporate world, so you're sending a professional document. If you do decide to go a little bit fancy, some people like to add flowers, little designs, just make sure it's appropriate for the job that you're applying for. If you're applying for something that's creative, graphic design, sure. If you're applying something that's more corporate, it's not the best, it's not suitable or the best idea to send a very fancy cover letter, I would say. For your education, it's important to specify all the grades, degrees you've attained, and the year and the institution. Experience would be all your previous and relevant experience are mentioned. Use action-oriented verbs and keywords to describe the bullet points, and roughly around 3 to 5 bullet points for your task descriptions or your skills description. And then writing, just make sure there's no errors. You can use softwares, peer review as well. So there's various types of templates that are available to you. We'll just go through them very fast. Oops, I don't know which screen I'm sharing.
Oh, we can see your Google Chrome now.
It's the career development. Okay, perfect.
So there's a
yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I don't know. I'm trying to get used with 2 monitors. I just got a new monitor, and I'm not too sure which one's which. So there's various types of templates that the Career Development Center or the Career Corner does offer you. Honestly, a simple way to get access to them if you don't have the direct link. If you just Google CDC U Ottawa, click on the first link. Job search tools, there's also cover letters, examples, and then resumes. So by clicking resumes, we offer different kinds of templates. There's either basic templates and then by faculties. I would suggest just take a look at them, see which one you feel more comfortable, but they pretty much have all the same information, so the way that the information would be shown. So example, let's take the Faculty of Arts free, which would be the Lucas Linguistic again. You can see that the different, it breaks down in different sections. So the first is the contact information, the summary of qualification, the education, relevant experience that for the job that you're applying for, other experience, awards and achievements, if applicable, and then extracurricular activities. In this resume, they kind of use the extracurricular activities to kind of fill out the empty space. So that's also another template. The more traditional ones would be a chronological resume, which would be, like I said, would be your contact information, summary of qualification, education, work experience, volunteering experience. And then you can see also at the side for the templates here, they're optional. So if you don't have the information, you don't have to put it in. It's just a template. It's to guide you. Training and certifications, awards and achievements, and so on. So like I said, there's various types of templates. Some might be more suitable for you. Some might not be applicable for you. I'll send the link afterwards. Feel free to take a look at it. So the main section in your resume would be the summary of qualifications, education, and then experience and skills. And like I said, there's always optional sections in your resume, which could be extracurricular activities, awards, certifications, scholarships, and achievements. So now if we just break down each section. So first, like I said, it's going to be your contact information. So your name, phone number, postal code, street address, email, and then LinkedIn, personal websites. After the next workshop, you'll know how to make one. And then your summary of qualifications. Typically, like I said, they include the most important information you want to highlight. To the employers, they typically include education, relevant experience, soft skills, computer and technical skills, languages, and it's important to tailor these points for the position you're seeking. It's always important to not have a generic resume. You can have a generic resume, but just make sure to tweak it so it's appropriate for the job that you're applying for. And the difference between soft skills and technical skills, think about technical skills would be like programming, coding, softwares, and things like that, like Microsoft, Apple, Google Suites, Pythons, SPSS. Those are all technical skills. And then soft skills would be more the communicational skills, leadership skills, teamwork skills, and so on. After that, it's your education. So it's include all the details of your education. You can include relevant courses, if applicable, project, title of your thesis, if, like I said, it's applicable. It's important to highlight the degree rather than the institution, because the employers would rather see what's your program and then the institution and then the additional information. So kind of when you're writing, you're putting the more important information at the top and then the least important information towards the bottom. Same thing for a resume. Ideally too, you kind of want to match the requirements that they're looking for in your resume. So let's say the number one requirement they're looking for, it's a X amount of education. You'll add this education at the top of your resume because that's what they're looking first. And then you fill in the rest of the information. If they're looking for specific skills first, so do your skills or your experience first and then your education. So your template can kind of vary depending what they're looking for or they're asking for in your job section. For relevant experience or skills, it's just listing previous experience or current experience relevant to your job that you're applying for in reverse chronological order for experience. So reverse chronological order would be the most recent to the least recent. And then list all the experience that you can. Possible headlines would include either work experience, other experience, volunteering experience, so on. I'll send you another document with possible headlines. And then how to write a job description would be, like I said, you're going to emphasize or put in bold your position title, because that's the most important position information that you want to put is the title that you had. And then the years that you work, name, organization, city, province. And then for your bullet points, it's going to be to use accomplishment-based statements to structure your bullet points. Use action verbs that demonstrate specific skill sets, and then be consistent with your verb tense and pay close attention to grammar and punctuation. So for example, here, I'm highlighting that I was an event planner when I worked, and then at the University of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and these were my tasks. So coordinated logistics, such as accommodations, catering, and transporting for the annual conference to ensure the smooth running of events. And then wrote and designed marketing material and updated the email distribution list, resulting in a successful registration over 100 participants. So in this example, you can kind of see how also it's important to quantify if possible. So if I would just say successfully registered over a large number of participants, the word large varies from individual to individual. For me, large could be 5 people, and then for Jennifer, large could be like 250 people. So if you have the possibility to quantify things, add it, because it's going to put more into perspective your skills. Now for how to write a skill description, it's typically the same thing as a work experience, but you can't necessarily put the date and the time and the institution because they're skills. So for skills in this example would be communicational skills, deliver, and then you're going to say how you acquired those skills. So deliver presentation to a group of over 50 participants for the annual health promotion fair to promote the events and recruit volunteers. And this, if you can, for this example, it would be better if I can say to promote the events and recruit volunteers and recruited 50 volunteers. You can see just by adding a number in front of it, it kind of makes it more heavy and more detailed. Then wrote and edited advertisement for, and then you can enumerate that, and then collaborated with partners, institute, associations to organize. So pretty much it's the same thing as a job description for your skills, but you're just using, instead of doing your tasks, it's how you acquired those skills. So after you're done writing or you're in the process of writing, we do have an online chat service that's available from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you have any questions, there's student mentors, counselors that are there that can give you resources and help. We do also offer various kinds of services, such as like mock interviews to prepare yourself for future interviews, job search skills as well, resume, cover letters, CV reviews, LinkedIn profile reviews, and personal statement reviews. You can either book an appointment by contacting us at career.corner@uottawa.ca, or like I said, just use our online chat system to book an appointment. Or if you just have like a random quick question, feel free to contact us, and it'd be a pleasure to answer all the questions to help you make that perfect resume. That is it. So I don't know if there's any questions from any of the people. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Nicolas. So we did have, I think we did have a question that kind of got answered in the chat at the same time about academic CVs and how long they are. And we'll definitely discuss this a little later with Meredith. But yeah, any questions for Nicholas? Comments before we move to the next part of the presentation?
Nicholas is going to be. I was going to say Nicholas is going to be staying online also. So I mean, you can.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Also, yeah. So there is I just read the chat. There's a difference between CV and a resume. In French, it's kind of complicated because they're both curriculum vitae. So CV in English means academic CV, and then a resume is a CV in French. If that makes sense. It's kind of complicated with like the language thing. So like an academic CV in French would also be a CV, but then a resume in French would be a CV, but a resume is not an academic CV. So that's kind of like the difference. So when you see like they're asking for a CV and the things in English, so they're referring to an academic CV. And academic CV, Meredith's going to talk about it, but there's a lot more things that you can put on. You can put conferences, panels, thesis, books, the list goes on and on and on.
The only thing that I would add, Nicholas, and it didn't come up because there wasn't a question, is just from my personal experience, having applied for many, many jobs, is I would recommend keeping like a master resume or a master CV with all of your experience in it, because you were talking about tailoring it to specific jobs. And if you don't have this master copy that exists, and you're just reusing the same one, you're going to lose some of that history. So that's just one personal recommendation from my experience. It wasn't addressed because it didn't come up, but yeah.
I also do that. And also a fun trick is if you can keep your previous job postings, it's going to help you a lot while writing your new resume, because when you're getting the HR terms too, you know exactly what you're doing. Let's say I worked 2012, I worked a job that I'm going to forget what I've done. What is it? 8-9 years ago. 8-9 years ago. So if I had the job description, if you can keep it, if I have the job description, I knew exactly what I did 8-9 years ago. So that's also a good little trick. If you have a master resume, just keep everything, and then you can copy paste and what's important. If you can keep your job description as well too, that's going to help you building a better resume as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So Jennifer, do you want to go ahead with the website? And yeah, if you have any questions that come up for Nicholas, he'll stay here, and you just feel free to put them in the chat.
Okay, PowerPoint. Okay, we are here. All right, so je suis ici pour parler des sites web personnels. So I'll be talking about building your personal website, something that is a useful tool to have, whether you're looking at a professional degree or a professional career path or an academic career path. And there's many reasons for why a personal website is important. And this is probably the biggest one. Quand vous rencontrez quelqu'un pour la première fois, soit à une réunion, ou si vous recevez des CV ou des résumés, des CV, qu'est-ce que vous faisiez? And the answer to that question is usually you Google someone. And I would say this applies not only in the professional world, but also in your social world. You'll often Google someone the first time that, that their name crosses your screen. And so one of the great ways to control what people see is to have a personal website. So this allows you to set the narrative or the brand that you're putting forward and to control, hopefully to a certain degree, what actual images people see of you. C'est aussi une opportunité de vous présenter à vos pairs, soit professionnels, à l'université ou dans le monde à plus grand. And so in the context of an academic website, there are probably different things that you would want to highlight than in a non-academic environment. And so as Nicholas was saying, in the context of CVs or resumes, you'll need to cater that to your specific industry or try to find a way to combine them. And I built my own website about 2 years ago. It took 3 attempts, and then I ended up getting some assistance doing it because the struggle that I was having was on the branding front. And so I kind of asked myself, how do I combine all of these seemingly different interests, jobs, and other activities that I'm doing into one coherent story? And so depending on what you're looking to do later on in life, the way that you highlight those different things, your personality, your research, your previous experience could vary, but there are some common sections that you would likely want to have on your website or some common themes. In the context of academia, having your own website is a great tool for sharing your current research and publications, whether they're publications in process, publications that have been finalized. Many websites, if not all websites, have a blog section. Et dans la section blog, on peut promouvoir toutes nos activités, on peut partager des nouvelles quand on est en train d'écrire quelque chose, on peut partager comme un petit partie de notre article, or we can share news once material gets published. Another important thing about websites is that it can serve as a networking or collaboration tool. So from a networking perspective, you can use your website to link to other platforms. So when I publish on my website now in my blog section, it automatically gets pushed to my social media networks. So I've finally figured out how to set that up on my website. And so it allows me to create a network there. Many website softwares have newsletter functions. And so you can get subscribers on your website and then they can receive announcements. In addition, you can also have a shared website. So the Student Association website is a good example of a shared website because it's a tool that's used by many members of the Student Association to push out information about what the association is doing. And so if you have a project or an initiative, you can use that as a collaboration tool or platform. Meredith put together this fantastic list of existing websites that are out there. So the first list is some websites that are existing from the Department of Communication. Some of these are websites in progress, but they're all very different, and yet you'll be able to see some commonalities amongst them. And then the Faculty of Arts as well, our Dean, Kevin Key, has his own website. So we can take a look at a couple of those together just to see kind of some of the similarities and differences that exist out there. Let me just see here. I suspect that's not sharing. Hang on. me change this up. Sure. All right, and then try this again here. So this is one of the examples from one of the professors in our department, what their website looks like. So there's an About Me section where you can learn all about Professor Compton. And then if you check on projects, they've chosen to use images as a guide for the different ways that you can interact with some of the content and some of the initiatives that they're working on. CV is also there. So Meredith is going to be talking about the academic CV shortly. And people is a section that Professor Compton has on the website. So people that they're collaborating with, grad students that they're working with, research assistants. So this is also where the networking piece comes into play. You could link on one of the research assistants and get more information about what that student is doing. I'm happy to share mine with you also. It has a bit of a different style. So we'll be talking about the different platforms that you can use to build your website in just a moment. I chose Squarespace after trying unsuccessfully with WordPress for a couple of rounds, and I have upgraded my account. So again, we'll be talking about that in just a second. But one of the things that I mentioned that I was struggling with is how do I bring together my academic life? I'm a varsity athlete, so the stuff that I do there, and then some of the other projects or initiatives that I'm involved in. And so this is how I've chosen to structure mine. I don't have a project section like Professor Compton did, but I do have an academic work section where you can go and learn more about the courses that I teach, the papers that I'm currently working on, my existing research. Under the About Me section, I've chosen to highlight my professional experience. I do have a very active blog. So there's a whole bunch of different formats that you can take when you're designing your website. In terms of website hosting, there are different options available to you. You can purchase a specific website or a virtual location through some of these platforms directly, or oftentimes the web platform that you're using will allow you to create your own URL. There is a cost for many of these things, although you can certainly build a free website as well. So depending on your interest and how you plan on approaching this, you could start with a free site and then later migrate to a proprietary URL. But there's different options that you can use to actually host your website. So that's where it lives. Many of them have a monthly or yearly subscription. The cost varies from site to site, and it's also going to vary depending on what you choose to include in the package that you purchase. The content management system. So this is the platform that you use to build your website. Some of the big common ones are on the screen in front of you. Many of them have templates, and you can choose like what field you're in and build your website accordingly. Again, I mentioned that I use personally Squarespace. The Student Association has chosen to use Wix. We found that that works really well collaboratively. And so you have options here. This is where experimenting with the free trials or the free versions of the websites is useful before purchasing a package. And those are usually offered on a subscription basis also, either monthly or yearly. Why do you want to use a content management system? It can be easy. allows you to use specific pieces, so you can actually pop out templates. You can set the design of the website, duplicate pages, just like you can duplicate slides in PowerPoint. It's easy to cater something to your specific industry because you can select a theme, because many of these websites, when you first sign up to build your own, will ask you questions to help you figure out what template might work best for you. And it allows for the integration into many different platforms. Some websites also have a translation feature, so that's something that may be of interest to professionals that are working in bilingual environments. I believe they all do. It's an add-on. The Student Association uses one on their Wix website, and so it allows us to easily translate content from English to French and vice versa. And we almost have two different versions of the site, an English version and a French version. So that may be something to be aware of if bilingualism is something that you're interested in having on your website, but is also important to the industry that you plan on working in. It can be free. It can be more costly. That's going to depend on how you choose to build your site and what features you want to add in. Registering the domain name. So again, if you want to have your own domain, you will need to purchase it. The price varies, and it varies also depending on the ending of your URL. So .ca versus .com versus .org, those kinds of things are going to affect the cost, but also the availability of the URL that you're working with. I would also encourage you to Google the URL that you're planning on using, not only to see if it's been taken, but to see what kind of results come up. And so the first version of my website was JD, which are my initials, hyphen PhD, which was the program that I was in. And the person that I was working with kindly, sympathetically pointed out that when someone searches JD PhD, they're not going to get my name. They're going to get a JD and PhD program, because a JD is also a Juris Doctor, which is a law degree, and then the PhD program. So what was happening when people were searching for JD PhD is that they were getting all of these universities and colleges that offered a JD PhD program, and my URL was buried much further down in the results if it showed up at all. So that's something to be mindful of when you're picking your domain name, in addition to all of the other aspects of it that I mentioned. The management systems will help you buy it. So you don't necessarily have to go to one of those domain registration sites. You can do all of this through Squarespace or Wix, or any of those kinds of platforms. It's up to you how you choose to do that. And there are other options to purchase it. So what should you include on your website? Again, that's going to vary depending on the industry that you're looking to work in, as well as your experience. But generally speaking, on an academic website and on a professional website, include something about yourself. So who are you, and why should people be interested in what you're doing or what you're talking about? So your area of expertise, any types of publications that you have, journals, books, YouTube content could be listed in this area as well. Your current research and your research goals, or perhaps your current employment experience and what your employment goals are. So there are similarities there. Any honors and achievements, funding that you've received. This can all go under different sections, so you'll need to think about how to organize this information. The examples that were on the previous slide are really great to kind of go through. Some people have a website that is almost like one page and jumps down. Other people use tabs, and so that really varies from person to person in terms of how they choose to highlight this. Any other relevant professional experience, forthcoming speaking experience. I like to use an events section and I highlight all that. So if I'm speaking at something or I have a conference coming up, you can see what's happening now in kind of like those places. Presentations, videos, photos. So show your personality while you're kind of building your website, and link it to other things that people might be interested in. So link it to your social media, link to your blog, which will probably be hosted on your website as well. Any other information that you think people would find interesting. Your basic contact information. There's different ways to do that. I wouldn't recommend putting your address on your personal website, but if you have an office at the university, that could be an address that you can list. You can also purchase a proprietary email with your URL. So if your website is elizabethdubois.com, it could be elizabeth@elizabethdubois.com, or you can use your own personal pre-existing email to include there as well. You could consider having a contact page. That could be a way to kind of navigate this, but just make sure that everything is all connected. If you have a contact page, you need to make sure that you're getting the notifications when someone fills out those forms. Otherwise, you're going to be missing opportunities. General tips: start small and build from there. The website that I'm currently using is the third version of the website that I've tried to build. The first one was very simple, and then I tried to make it more complicated, and it looked like more of a resume. And so I sought outside help. And that's an option that you could certainly explore, is hiring someone or working with someone to build your website. Once you have the website built, I found it very easy to update it. But this is certainly something that you can do on your own by starting simple, following some simple principles, and then working on growing your content once you have a web presence there. There's ways to promote and optimize your page. So you can use search engine optimization. Many website platforms will allow you to do this. They have a tab for it. It'll help you out with that. Promote your website on different platforms. So I actually have a link in my Instagram page and on my Twitter that all links to my website. Activate Google Scholar, Academia EDU, ResearchGate. If you're going into academics, on LinkedIn, make sure that you list your profile or your website on your profile. So keep everything connected. Another great option in terms of starting small is to start with the University of Ottawa and start with our UniWeb. So if you click on UniWeb, you can log in. And then it'll guide you through building your own UniWeb profile. Many, if not all, faculty members have this, and many doctoral students as well as master's students are getting on UniWeb. It's a great way for people to find you. It's almost like an internal social network, and a starting point for building any website. You'll need to go through this whole authentication process that you can see, but then it just guides you through it. So once you've logged in, if you follow the steps here, you agree to the terms of use, and you start filling out the information. Once you've created your profile, it gets approved, and then you can go ahead and populate it, just like many of our colleagues have already. So this could be a good starting point. It's also another opportunity to promote your website. So I've covered a lot of stuff very quickly. Are there any questions in the chat or about website design or choosing a platform, building a website that I can help answer? Okay, I don't see any.
There's one question.
Oh, yeah.
In the chat, I think from Diane. Can you see it?
Not yet.
What if you have more than one affiliation? So if you're a student and a part-time professor for UniWeb?
That's a good question, Diane. I think that you should be able to click multiple, but I would almost be tempted to click as someone that has multiple categories also, or more affiliations, I think I would start with the part-time professor and then the doctoral student. So not that being a doctoral student isn't important, but there's kind of like a hierarchy, for lack of a better word. And you need to think about who's going to be looking for you. And as a part-time professor, I would say that your students will probably be looking for you first. And you could put in your bio on UniWeb that you are also a doctoral student, but I would kind of go with like the highest category. All right. All of this material will also be posted online later, the PowerPoint, the examples, and everything like that. So you'll be able to find that all on the CGSA website in our blog section after the presentation. Okay, and we're going to talk about academic CVs now.
Okay.
Meredith, would you like me to screen share, or do you want to screen share?
I'm on my phone again, so I'll need you to. Yes, thank you.
No problem. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah. So I'm sorry I missed the beginning. Was it? How was the part with the industry CVs?
Nicholas was
Excellent.
great. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So I know we're almost out of time. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go over the kind of an overview of what an academic CV is. And the good news is that the slides themselves contain most of the information you need to kind of duplicate this or put yours together. And we've also included a link to some examples that we've pulled together of people that were okay with us sharing. So you can kind of use that as a guide and then make it your own. So in terms of an academic CV, it's a lot different than an industry CV, and it's different than what you might put on your website, in the sense that its entire purpose is to kind of have everything you've ever done related to your academic role and your kind of role in research or as a graduate student. So the reality is that this becomes like, there are some full professors, if you were to look up certain members of our department, even who've been working for a long time, their academic CV could be 40 pages. I've seen some as long as maybe 80 pages, and it can be a little bit ridiculous, but the reason that it's there is that it does sort of serve as this log of everything you've ever done. And then depending on what you need or what you're using, you can pull from it or kind of cater it to a specific job or a specific position. But it does serve as this kind of record of everything, because otherwise that stuff can get lost. So in terms of, I guess, kind of the key take home message there is that your CV is going to be long, or it'll be short at first and then it'll get long, and don't worry about that. There's no rule about it. It's fine. So you can go to the next slide, Jen. Yes. So there we go. So the key thing is that your academic CV will have these general kind of headings and sections. This is standard, but what is not standard is maybe the exact label you might give those, whether you have all of them or not. Earlier in your career, you might only have a few of these. As you get more experience, or if you're in academia longer, you'll have more. And in terms of the order that you put them in, as a grad student, you might want to privilege, for example, your service in committees and move that up. And then maybe your publications would be later because you don't have any yet, or your conference experience is less. But the important thing is that these are the general headings. You can change the wording up if you want a little bit. And the order you would want to make that, you would want to make the order relevant to what you want to showcase or what you have that's stronger, if that makes sense. So I won't, because we only have a few minutes left, I won't go through each side in detail, but Jen, do you want to just maybe go through and you can see, oh yeah, sorry, I had advice first. Yes. So I strongly recommend getting in the habit as soon as you've done something, or if you've participated in something, add it to your CV. So for example, everyone who did intercom a week and a half ago, add it to your CV right now, because even if you have the best intentions, you will not remember everything you do at the end of the year. If you try to update it every 6 months or something, it's not going to happen. So do it as you go. This is a good reminder for me right now. I have a few things. I usually keep a sticky note open on my computer and just add things to it. And then when I update it kind of in a batch, it's all there. I don't need to think about it twice. So if you haven't already, once you build it, come up with some sort of way of updating it regularly. Yeah, so we'll just slide through here. This is just kind of general advice about what to include. If you are making yours for the first time, feel free to refer back to these slides and see what falls under each section. So Jen, you can flip through. Yeah, so the kind of key things are that you're going to want to stick to like a referencing style. So if you want to do it all in APA or MLA, make sure you're consistent throughout. But those are all the different sections. And like I said, some of these, like the grants and fellowships section, for example, you probably won't have that as a grad student. So don't worry about that. Publications, as you have more of them, you should sort them. If you only have one, put it there, put it really high up, showcase that. Same with conferences. Once you start to have lots of conferences and lots of publications, it should all be sorted in reverse chronological order. So your newest stuff is at the top. So you keep bumping things down. Yeah, teaching experience can include your TA-ships, guest lectures, invited presentations, etc. And then this one here. So yeah, services and committee. As a grad student, you definitely would want to move this up, especially if you're heavily involved in the CGSA or other activities on campus. This is a good opportunity to showcase this. And yeah, so in terms of resources, I've pulled together a few links of kind of some general how-to guides, some kind of common mistakes, and probably the most useful thing, though, hopefully it'll be some examples that we have for you here. So if you click on this Dropbox link, this is just a kind of group of curated examples that we hope will be useful to you. In terms of a good question is, do you need one in French and or English? So I know for me early on in my academic career, I made mine bilingual, so it looked longer. And I know a lot of people who do that. So it's an option, but you don't need to have it in French and or English. You can pick one at the University of Ottawa and just have either or. Generally speaking, though, you would want to make sure you have an English copy, since outside of the University of Ottawa, it would be kind of hard to share that one unless you're sharing it with colleagues in Quebec. So I would recommend at least having a full version in English as well. So your choice kind of on the French side. So Jen, I don't know if you want to go in and just show some of the ones we have there. And then
yeah, we're inside now, Meredith.
We're what?
We're in the Dropbox now. I'm kind of scrolling through them.
Oh, I can't see it.
That's okay.
Can anyone else see it?
Oh, no, we can't see it. No.
Well, we still see your slides.
That's so disappointing. Okay, 1 second. I will change this.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, I was scrolling through them and apparently only I was seeing them. So that's
excellent.
Fun. Yeah, that's great.
So academic CVs are kind of boring. Like they're not sexy, they're not fun, but they serve a purpose. And it, like I said, it's just a good habit to get in to kind of keep that log. One of those is annotated, the one that says McGill. I had some notes there. This is one I had at the end of my postdoc. So again, don't feel overwhelmed. I included, I think, my first semester of grad school. So you could see I had like 4 things on it. That's also totally fine. It'll build as you go, but it's a good habit to get in making it. Maria, I don't know if you're still here, if you had anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Just for you to go over the examples, and yeah, we're here to answer any questions if you have them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's 1 o'clock. Wow, I wasn't here for the whole thing, but that went by very fast. So are there any questions? Anything we can,
hang on, let me see if I can see the chat.
Yeah, I can see the chat. There are no questions so far.
I have a question. Is it okay for someone who is a professor being given an appointment, into the board of a company to still use his or her professorial CV for that kind of appointment? Is it okay? Or he or she is supposed to change it, and adapt it, for the present situation on hand? So I'm asking, is it okay to use that kind of academic CV for an appointment into the board or the executive position of the company, because we have some professors who are, appointed into non-executive positions in companies. Is it okay to use the academic CV for that purpose?
Maybe I can, or go ahead, Meredith, and I can.
I missed the beginning part, so I feel like it would tie in maybe with the industry. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's more in terms of adapting, like, as always, right? You adapt your CV to the job offer, and sometimes you can combine both. So actually, the example that Jennifer shared, so this is one of my CVs that I did for a job that required both, like, kind of practical outside of academia experience, but then also they wanted some evidence of publications, presentations. So if you're talking about the job on a board where, I don't know, you would have to, I don't know, write reports or do those kinds of things. So then you can kind of also, combine both types of CVs and, for example, start with a template that Nicola showed us at the beginning, but then at the end, you can add examples of presentations that you did or examples of reports that you did or publications. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does, because that I was one who posted that on the chat. I saw a professor's CV, who had an appointment into a board that was up to 15 pages. I had to grab a cup of coffee to finish reading it. So that was why when Nicholas was talking about, your CV has to be 1 or 2 pages, and I was like, what I saw is, is different from what he was saying. But I'm glad that the difference has been clarified, that there's a difference between an academic CV and a professional CV. So thanks for your response.
Yeah, and then again, if you want to include some parts of that, in your professional CV, you don't have to, I don't know, list everything, like all the presentation or all the publications that you did. You can just list, 2 or 3 examples of your best work to showcase that.
Well, and if I can chime in for a second, also, I mentioned this in the chat too. One of the ways that I was able to get around the page limit when I was in law school, because they said that CVs or resumes for applying for jobs should be, I think we had 3 pages maximum, but I went into law school with a lot of work experience. Doing my law degree was my 3rd degree. I was super involved on campus, so I had this massive list of extracurriculars. And when I sat down with career services, they were like, it looks like you're just padding your resume. And I was like, I'm not. Like, I'm actually doing all of these things. And so what they suggested was what Nicholas was saying and what Meredith and Maria have said, which is to pick the ones that are the most relevant for whatever position it is that you're applying, include those in your main CV. And then the workaround that I used was I added an appendix or an annex. So I highlighted the extracurricular activities that were the most relevant. I started a couple new clubs and this massive sports tournament that involved like 3 different faculties, and I was able to provide detail about that. But I was also super involved in a lot of other things. And so my annexes or appendices, they were just a list of all of those. And so that's probably how I'm personally going to approach the next phase in a non-academic world, is I will probably have a 3-page CV that has my most relevant experience. And then I will have annexes that have other information in there. And if someone wants to read it, they'll read it. And if they don't want to read it, they'll stop after the first 3 pages. Are there any other questions or comments?
I guess if I could just add, I really hope that if you don't already have a personal website built, that you feel, maybe motivated to try. I'm personally in the process of updating mine. So if you have questions or want to work through ideas, kind of like, I guess, some peer mentorship on it, I'm happy to chat and discuss more about it, since I'm doing a big update. Mine's broken right now. So anyway, yeah.
And that's also something we could, the Student Association could facilitate if there's an interest in having a workshop specifically on building resumes, academic or otherwise, or websites, I would say send the Student Association an email. And then that's something that we could look at organizing as like a one-off event. Maybe it's a writing group where we get together and do it kind of as a group, or it could be a specific workshop targeted to any of these individual pieces. All right. Okay, well, I think that closes off today's presentation. Alors, merci tout le monde pour être en attendance aujourd'hui. Notre prochain événement, I don't know why I'm having tech difficulties. Notre prochain événement sera le 10 mars. We're going to be talking about the work-life balance on March 10th. And there's going to be someone coming in with expertise in this area to talk about some skills and tips for that.